So, Los Angeles fire victims were promised $2.5 billion, not 2 million, not 25 million, 2.5 billion. And nearly a year and a half later, NBC4 investigators are now reporting that a lot of that money still has not been used. And the money that was used, very little of it went directly to the hands of the people who lost everything. Remember, homes are gone. Memories vanished, gone. Entire neighborhoods burned to the ground. Families standing in ashes trying to figure out how to rebuild their lives, and somehow the system found a way to turn that, even that pain, into bureaucracy. You see, this is why this story matters, because it isn't just about fire relief, no. This is about what happens when politicians are rewarded for speeches, when politicians are rewarded for photo ops, for identity, for party loyalty, for emotional manipulation, but not rewarded for results. Watch this.
Newsom and a bunch of local leaders out in Pasadena in the days after the Eaton and Palisades fires, pledging a $2.5 billion relief package for fire victims. Well, now we know a lot more about all of that money, that a lot of it hasn't been used, and the portion that was distributed actually sent very little directly to fire victims.
Now let's slow that down, because this is how the game works. They stand in front of cameras when the pain is fresh. They stand near the burn zone. They stand near the victims. They say the right words. They use words like recovery, relief, rebuilding, community, compassion. And everybody claps because it sounds like help is on the way, help is on the way. But here we are, nearly a year and a half later, and people are still asking, where did the money go? That's why I always say, don't judge politicians by the announcement, judge them by the outcome, because the announcement is the performance. The announcement is the performance. The outcome is the truth. Anybody can stand in front of a microphone and promise billions, but you see, what matters is whether that money reaches the people who were used as the emotional justification for the money in the first place. Because remember, the money was not advertised as agency reimbursement. It wasn't sold to the public as bureaucratic circulation. It wasn't presented as government departments paying themselves back. It was presented as relief for people who lost everything. So when victims hear $2.5 billion, they're thinking, maybe I can rebuild. Maybe I can survive. Maybe I can bridge the gap. Maybe I can hold my family together. But the system here is something different. The system here is new fund, new department, new allocation, new contract, new excuse, new money moving through the machine. And that's the difference between how regular people hear government promises and how the political class uses them. But it gets worse, because NBC4 found that some of this relief money did not just sit unused. No, some of it went somewhere that regular people would never expect. Almost 14 million connected to this relief fund is used for CHP overtime during protests in downtown Los Angeles against immigration enforcement. Now listen carefully. This is the part where people try to twist the conversation. This is not about whether you support or oppose immigration enforcement. This is not about whether you like or dislike protests. This is about one simple question. Why is money connected to fire victim relief being used for something unrelated to fire victims? If someone lost their home in Altadena, if someone lost their family home in the Palisades, if someone is sleeping somewhere else because their entire life burned down, how do you explain to them that relief money went to crowd control? Watch this.
This is where nearly $14 million of the state's relief money for the victims of the Palisades and Eaton fires was spent. Overtime for CHP officers sent to demonstrations in downtown LA where protesters marched against immigration enforcement operations. According to this memo, the Department of Finance in June 2025 used some of the fire money for law enforcement unrelated to the fires.
Now see, this is why folks don't trust the government. Because the language always sounds clean. They'll say it was authorized. They'll say it was pre-approved. They'll say it fell within the legal framework. They'll say it was connected to public safety. But folks ain't stupid. We know the difference between helping the fire victims and using fire victim relief money to pay for something else that some way, somehow benefits them. And this is the problem with government spending. Once the money enters the system, the people who were used to justify that money often become a sort of an afterthought. The victims become the headline, the agencies become the recipients, the suffering becomes the marketing, and the machine gets fed. Now think about this like a job. If someone came to work and you said, give me, let's say $2.5 billion because I'm going to help these people. Then a year and a half later, you found out that most of the money was not released and some of the money went somewhere else. Would you call that success? No, you would call it failure. You would call it mismanagement. You would call it a betrayal of the people that you claim to serve. And that's why I keep saying, stop. Please stop falling in love with politicians. Politicians are not your family. They're not your friends. They're not your savior. They're not your celebrity crush. They are your employees. They are your employees. They work for their public service. They work for the public. And when they do not perform, they should be fired. But you see, the real story is not just about numbers, because when we say $2.5 billion, that sounds big. When we say 14 million, that sounds political. When we say 75% was never released, that sort of translates kind of like a spreadsheet. But here's the thing. Behind all of that, there's real people. People in Altadena, people in the Palisades, people who did not lose a talking point, they lost their homes. Folks that lost their family history. Some lost loved ones. Some lost entire lots. And one man in that NBC report says something that should stop everybody in their tracks. Check this out.
I definitely would not want funds directed to anywhere but in the hands of the survivors who've lost everything.
Zaire Calvin has been working to help the victims of the Eaton fire that claimed the life of his sister and destroyed his family's homes.
You're looking at my lot, plural, which we had 5 homes on. Lost so much. I've been an advocate since the fires, fighting for my community, rebuild everything Altadena. I had no idea $2.5 billion was designated for fire victims.
That right there is the whole story. I had no idea $2.5 billion was designated for fire victims. Think about how insane that is. The public heard the announcement. The cameras saw the announcement. The politicians got credit for the announcement. But the actual people who were supposed to benefit from the announcement, some of them didn't even know that the money existed. They didn't even know that the money existed. That tells you everything. Because in politics, the victim is often more valuable as a symbol than a person. As a symbol, they can stand behind you at a press conference. As a symbol, they can justify an emergency bill. As a symbol, they can help unlock billions of dollars. As a symbol, they can make the politician look compassionate, make the politician look urgent and heroic. But as a real person, now they need answers. Now they need checks. Now they need you to pay me. Now they need rebuilding help. Now they need direct aid. Now they need somebody to pick up the phone. And that's where the system starts moving slow. Because the photo op is easy. The follow through is very, very hard. Yeah, see, the promise is easy. The delivery is where the truth comes out. And this is bigger than one fire. This is the same pattern we see over and over again in Los Angeles. Homelessness, public safety, street lights, small businesses, schools, housing. Every crisis gets turned into an announcement. Every announcement gets turned into funding. Every funding package gets swallowed by the system. And the people at the bottom are told, hold on. Be patient. Help is coming. But help never seems to arrive the way it was promised. And then there's this part. This is the part that shows you how disconnected the system really is. So as NBC4 found that the state health department received $13 million from the relief fund. And part of what came out of that was a YouTube video about cleaning soot, ash, and smoke damage. Now, information after a disaster can be useful. No one is saying that information is bad, but listen to the timing. This video was posted 9 months after the fire, and at the time of the report, it had 181 views. You can't make this up. Watch this.
That's because the spending records show it received $13 million from the relief fund. The department says it used some for air monitoring or testing and spent some making YouTube videos like this one.
Cleaning soot, ash, and smoke damage from your home after a wildfire.
It was posted 9 months after the fires. It's been viewed 181 times.
Now, this is where we have to have a very, very uncomfortable conversation. Because people keep voting based on symbolism. Folks are voting based on party. They're voting based on identity. They're voting based on who the celebrity told them to like. They vote based on who looks familiar, who sounds familiar, who says the right cultural words, who gives them the emotional performance they want to hear. But identity is not a performance review. Background is not a track record. Representation is not a receipt. Results are. If your house is burned down, can symbolism rebuild it? No. If your family is displaced, can a campaign slogan replace your home? No. If your community is destroyed, can a press conference put money in your bank account? No. So why do we keep treating politics like it's a personality contest? Karen Bass, Gavin Newsom, all of them. I don't care what they look like. I don't care what community they claim to represent. I don't care how good the speech sounds. I care what happened after the cameras left. Did the people get helped? Did the money reach the victims? Did the promise become reality? This is the only standard that matters. Because if we keep voting for symbols, we're going to keep getting symbolic help, symbolic compassion, symbolic leadership, symbolic recovery. Meanwhile, the real money moves through the real system, and the real victims keep waiting. So here's the thing. The fire victims were the reason for the promise. So the fire victims should have been the priority, not the agencies, not the optics, not the political machine, not the press conference, the people, the families, the homeowners, the neighborhoods, the ones who lost everything. Until voters start judging politicians like employees instead of celebrities, the cycle will continue. They will promise. They'll pose for the camera. They'll redirect. They will delay. And then they will come back during the next election asking for loyalty. No. See, loyalty belongs to results. Respect belongs to performance. And public office belongs to the people who actually serve the public. Hold the position accountable, not the person's background.